Hello, fermented folks.
We have P. Jelly Clark.
All Makatsu.
We have Travis Baldry.
Today we have a really special guest, Leopoldo Gout.
Are you reeling it in and defending clowns?
I am.
Earth doesn't even exist in Battlestar Galactica.
This show gave me heartburn. I was like, I love it, I hate it.
It's called All Fluff.
Oh!
If you didn't know how I actually feel about The Mandalorian,
Don't worry,
this is it right here.
Hello, fermented folks, and welcome to another episode of Fermented Fiction, the show where we drink beer together and argue about the best books, movies, and shows in the genre fiction realm with our tremendously amazing guests. And if that wasn't enough adjectives for you, I'm going to give you one more. Just super stoked for this fantastic actress, writer, director, all things film, really. Co-founder of a woman-led film company. Rachel Noll-James kicks fucking ass, and we're so glad she's on the show with us. Rachel, hello.
Hi, Clay. Thanks for having me. I'm very nervous and excited.
Okay, well, hopefully the nerves will fade. I think me and Zeb, hopefully we're not too nerve-wracking here on the air. I should stumble plenty with these kind of introductions, and that should make you feel better. We're so glad to have you here. Thank you so much for making the time to be on our show. And those of you who may not know, Zeb has been on a few episodes. He writes our weekly movie reviews and our blog, Meathead Media, and he's here pinch hitting for us tonight because Travis and Jeremy are on the bench. So yeah, Zeb, thanks for being here again, brother.
Yeah, my pleasure. Rachel, it's a pleasure to meet you as well. I just did a quick IMDb. Fantastic resume. I too now am feeling even more nervous. So we're united in our nerves together.
I love this. I feel better.
Yes, absolutely. Rachel would also make me nervous if I hadn't got to meet her in person a few times and gotten to see how humble and friendly and kind she is. So that does help. And Rachel, thanks again for being here. We're so stoked to have you here to talk about tonight's topic, which is the Moana duology. Moana 1 and 2. If you don't know what a duology is, it's like a trilogy, but with two things. So yeah, we're going to be talking about both the Moana films tonight. Zeb is going to be debating on behalf of Fermented Fiction, Rachel on behalf of the rest of the literary realm. Good luck, Rachel. You're representing us all out there. So we'll start like we always do with a round of personal updates. Zeb, you want to kick us off, and then we'll go me, and then we'll go Rachel, so Rachel can tell everyone her own version of her bio.
Sure. I'm Zeb. I'm a fourth-year grad student at Marquette University, and that correlates directly to my update. I just got finished with a full week of a dissertation writing workshop. So I just spent the last 4 days sequestered like a monk, actively working on my dissertation. Was it thrilling? It was not. Was it grueling? It was. Did I get a lot done? You never feel like you do. So really happy to be here tonight. I surely needed a break. And what better break than to debate Moana 1 and 2?
Yeah, I agree. That's a great way to take a break. So my personal update's going to be kind of simple, kind of semantic, but if you've been watching this show for a while, you'll notice that my background has changed quite a bit. We have done some rearranging in our house. We turned our old bedroom into our guest room, which the guest room is always doubled as my office. Because that's just practical. It's the way she works. And this is my new space. And for Christmas, my wife got me this awesome tapestry back here. So I would have a nice, cool background. But I love the kind of mix of horror and fantasy that it is. It's so sweet. And behind it there is my little whiteboard where I plot out my books, in case you're interested in what the hell that thing is. I got a little Samurai Gengar over here in the corner. So yeah, pretty stoked about my new space. It's always fun to kind of move things around, and it's kind of crazy how that can psychologically shift your workflow and everything. But I felt very productive in this room, so I'm happy about that. And I'm getting to break it in as a recording space as well. So thank you all of you out there who are listening to us do this at this moment. Rachel, who are you, and where can people find your work, and what is that work, and all that good stuff? Thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I am Rachel. I am a filmmaker, an actress, a director, a producer. I am a co-founder of the production company Emergence Films. We're based primarily up here in Seattle, but we also have a branch in London. My producing partner, Sienna, splits her time between the US and London. So as far as what's going on right now, on the Emergence Film side, we are just finishing up the first year of a program we started in 2025 to support early career female filmmakers. We have 2 short films that have come out of the program. They're going to be showing next month, which is super exciting. And we just closed applications for the second cycle. We got 39 teams that applied from the state of Washington. And so we definitely have our work cut out for us, narrowing it down to 3, which is so hard.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So that's going to be amazing. And then on the creative side, I have 2 feature films that we shot here in Washington that are out on streaming. My film Ingress that I wrote and directed actually is an international release in the UK on Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday. I'll be in Ireland in the UK. And then
oh, wow.
is doing its thing. It's also going to be released internationally. So those are out in the world, working on a new script that we'll hopefully be shooting at the end of next year. Or no, it's 2026, the end of this year. But we'll see. All things in film are, we'll see. But lots of good creative energy, and I'm excited to be here and to be doing good creative things to start the year off.
Hell yeah. The work you guys do is incredible, and I'm really thankful you're out there doing it. Emergence Films is awesome. It's like when Rachel's referencing those teams, but that's putting women behind the camera. That's putting women in front of the camera. It's getting them involved in all levels of the filmmaking process. And there's still, even in this day and age, not a ton of avenues for that. You're starting to see like the first Hollywood blockbuster movies getting directed by women, and it's well past time. So Rachel, thanks for contributing to that, you and Sienna both. We have an episode with Sienna Beckman, incidentally. We did that just a few weeks ago. So yeah, you can also go check that out on our YouTube channel. That was a lot of fun. But before you do that, you should stick around and listen to what we have to say about Moana. Unless, of course, you don't want Moana spoiled for you because you haven't seen it yet for whatever reason. If that's the case, go away, and then you can come back and watch this whenever you want. It'll be on YouTube forever, as long as YouTube exists and all that, and we exist. But we will spoil everything on this show like we always do. That being said, you've been warned. We're now going to get into our debate section. This is where we're going to roll 2 D20s. The high roll will debate that Moana rocks. The low roll will debate that Moana sucks, regardless of what anybody actually thinks. And then we'll have a panel discussion afterwards where we talk about what we really think and some questions and all that kind of good stuff you can expect from a creative people panel. Are you guys ready to get into it?
Yep.
Hell yeah. All right. Zeb and Rachel, go ahead and roll those dice. I'm getting your timer ready. What'd you get?
20.
Whoa!
Ooh.
First time on the show, nat 21 roll, one and done, one shot, one kill. Zeb, it doesn't matter what you got, but I am curious. What did you get?
I rolled a 5.
Okay.
It was
Just
probably
absolutely
not going to look
smoked.
good in my favor anyway.
Okay. Well, hey, yeah, you gave it a go, pal. And you can try to redeem yourself here in the debate, but you are going to have to wait until after Rachel because our dice roll winner always goes first. Rachel, you ready to talk about Moana?
Yes.
All
Let's
right.
do it.
Your timer is starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay. Moana. So I have loved the first movie for a long time. I think that it is a beautiful story. I think it's one of the first movies that really captured kind of a female journey in a way that didn't feel contrived or too male gazy. Like her whole journey through, finding the oh my gosh, the goddess with the fire and the thing, and she got her heart stolen by a man and then had to get put back is like just really powerful moment. And then Lin-Manuel Miranda, the music in the first one is just so incredible. And I think overall just that sort of journey that she has to take on her own, they did a really beautiful job of creating this metaphor that I think was relatable to so many people. children and adults alike, in terms of just what that feels like when you're kind of on the cusp of something and you're scared and you have to overcome that fear and find your way and your power and your, just finding your way back to the essence of who you are. Do I have to go for 10 minutes, Clay? Is that what no? Okay, thank God.
No,
10 minutes
You
for
started
both.
10 minutes. And I'd like to thank my opponent here for such an excellent introduction. Gives me a lot of talking points. First, I want to say the music in the first one, fantastic. The music in the second one, however, is a big detraction from where the first one set the bar. And that's my first talking point against here, the movies. With respect to Moana's arc, my contention, especially for the first movie, is that I think she's too much of a passive protagonist in her own story. Like, a lot of the external forces, Maui, the spirits, her grandmother, the ocean, like everything is really playing with her and pushing the plot forward. And I think she could have had a more central role. In the first movie, Tafiti, like the lava goddess, Tafiti, the nature goddess, great villain, but not really like a real villain. Like, I would have been mad if my heart was stolen too. Like, she never really did anything bad that is like you wouldn't have expected. And then with the second movie, the villain Nalo, the god of storms, I don't think that character was fleshed out a whole lot either. Especially with like the post-credit scene where they're hinting at like a third movie, that tells me that it wasn't really a full arc. And I think that is a negative aspect of the film.
All right. I will counter your debate about Moana's arc and the villain by saying this. I feel that the male hero's journey has been done and done and done. And we're so used to seeing that, I have to chart my own course and I'm going to go kill the things and be the master of my own destiny. And then the villains are monsters to be slain. And I think, in this case, I actually appreciate, when you think about life, when we're going on a journey, like there are some things that are in our control, but so many things happen to us and we have to adjust and adapt, right? So like the grandmother gives an inspiration. She gets, something happens on the way and you get deflected into a place you didn't expect and you have to make different choices. Someone comes along who helps teach you about a strength you didn't know you had. So I think in a way it speaks to a more feminine way of journeying in a way, which is not so much about I have to be this solo show, and more about how do I stay in relationship with everything that's going on around me and adapt and connect. And I think similarly, I really have always loved three-dimensional villains, and especially like I love the idea of like the Frankenstein monster / Grendel sort of contrast, where it's when you humanize the monster. So you have to understand that at a certain point, all monsters come from somewhere. No one is born a monster. Like, what made her this way? And we get to see that, which I think we don't often get to see with villains in movies. And I appreciate that about this one.
Interesting. All right. Well, here I am, a man talking smack about poor Moana. Here's what I'm going to say to that. The first movie should have been left alone. She already had a gorgeous arc in the first movie, and then the second movie comes along and is like, oh, who am I, all over again? And like, who am I as a leader? Look, not necessary. Disney, I think, was going for just a great cash grab on the Moana name and the Moana franchise. Like, she already had a full arc. So did Maui. And then Maui comes along in the second movie, steals the show again. And don't even get me started on that ending. Total Deus Ex Machina, like, oh, okay, we're going to bring Moana and Maui back by the ancestral powers and the spirit powers to like, now they're both demigods. So were there any stakes at all for the for the entire series? It feels like there wasn't really. It feels like Moana was destined to be like the Wayfinder and just the demigoddess this whole time. And to me, look, I know it's a Disney movie and we're going really harsh here, but like, hey, if I'm going to critique something, that's what I'm going to critique.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I have a hard time defending the second movie. I'm not going to lie, but let me think. Listen, the first movie for the grown-ups, the second movie for the kids. They just want to spend more time with Moana and Maui and silly animals and those little coconut monsters and be a little bit scared, see the pretty ocean again. And I'm sure Disney made a ton of money. Hopefully they spread that around. probably didn't. But you know, it's what the studios do, right? Like they see that something's successful and they capitalize on it and they make more, and is more better.
You know, I can't. That's the best counter argument I've heard for a sequel ever. Is that like the first movie was for the parents? Because I mean, how many times have we rewatched Disney movies and gone, oh my gosh, we watched these as kids? This is an adult film about love and loss here. To that point, I think Moana 2 is emotionally manipulative. They have so many side characters now where like the first movie was like comic relief with the pig and the chicken, sometimes Maui. But like now, the second movie, we have the 3 compatriots along the journey that like, I don't know, what did they add other than like, you know, you have mortals going into the realm that they shouldn't be going into.
Yep.
First movie, great emotional arc. Second,
yeah. Yeah. Well, and I will say this for the first movie. I think when done well, music is so impactful. And, you know, I can see this with my husband in particular, because he is not a musical guy. But when it's really like the music, and I mean, Lin-Manuel is like in a league all of his own, but like when music is really powerful and emotive, you know, it just pulls you in, and it creates like a different level of connection to the story and the characters. And I think music can be very distracting and pull you out, or it can be very engaging and pull you in. And I think that really gifted musicians and composers have that gift of like creating music that enhances and that does not feel like, oh, we're taking a break for a dance on a song, and it just kind of weaves right in. And I appreciated that blend throughout, and how it enhanced the arc of the characters.
I would agree to an extent. I think that, like, I'm totally with you, especially about Lin-Manuel Miranda. But I think in these movies, the music almost gave away the plot. Like, granted, again, kids' movies, but you almost knew exactly step by step what was happening based on the tone of the music, and that I think kind of took away any of the suspense and the stakes, especially towards the ending. Like when they started playing, you know, really rousing and inspiring music in the Battle of Te Fiti, I was like, oh, she might pull this off. She might really get this.
Oh, do you mean that moment when there's like still and she's like walking across the thing and it goes in slow motion? Is that what you're referring to?
That is kind of what I'm referring to, yes.
Oh, that is so powerful.
It was. It was, but then at the same time, I'm like, the music almost told me what to feel, and I think I would have really appreciated more like a moment of like pure silence, where the movie is and the acting, you know, the directing is telling me what to feel from that moment, because music it's a double-edged sword, you know, like if you've ever watched like Jaws without music, or like you mute it, it's almost like a comedy. Like horror movies especially can be like comedies if you take the music out of it or if you change the music, but then the flip side is people like Lin-Manuel Miranda are like making us feel the whole way. But yeah, in some of those scenes, I think tonally it kind of gives away what's going to happen or how we're supposed to feel.
Interesting. Do you feel that way about animated movies in general, or this one in particular?
Because it's this movie, I'm gonna say this one in particular. We can get into it more about like some of my other favorite Disney movies, like Hunchback of Notre Dame. I think,
really?
Oh my gosh, the music in that one, out of this world to me.
Okay, I love that. See, I love it because art's so subjective, right?
Yes, but that's what makes it special or non-special to us. Yes. And what makes these kind of conversations so important is because like I may not see it, or you know, maybe I do see it and I'm overanalyzing it.
Shut up, everybody. That's the end of the debate. Excellent work, you two. Thank you so much for entertaining us there and laying bare all your thoughts on Moana 1 and 2, but maybe not all your thoughts. We're going to find out in our next segment. Before we do that, we are going to crack open some drinks, at least me and Zeb are, because I know Rachel is drinking fucking rain, which is Fermented Fiction's way of celebrating the consumption of H2O. That is something to be celebrated, not something to be teased about. We are not teasing you, Rachel. Way to stay hydrated out there. And I mean, if there's any episode to drink a lot of water on, it's definitely Moana, right? I mean, yeah, let's get the goddess's blessing here for at least someone on the show. Good call. Good call. I know you're here looking out for us. I can start since I got mine in my hand. I have Dreamboat Hazy IPA from Everybody's Brewing. I've never tried a beer from Everybody's Brewing, but we're going to give it a go. It is Cascade crafted, they say. So here in Washington State, I usually try to find a Washington beer. I chose this one for a few reasons. A, I like hazies. B, it has the word boat in the title. And C, it is a Washington beer. So we're gonna go for it and see how good it is. How about you, Zeb? What do you got?
I tried to also maintain the water theme, but I'm a pretty strictly anti-IPA type guy.
Sure.
If I wanted to drink a bowl of pine water, I would just go out in a rainstorm in the forest. So instead, I have a River West Stein. I'm Milwaukee based, and this is a local brewery. So I thought river, close enough. It's water.
Sure. I'm
My
sure
mom's family's from Milwaukee.
Oh yeah. Oh jeez. Oh.
Do
hey guy, you want some cheese curds?
Man, now they're ganging up on me on this podcast. Do you hate IPAs too, Rachel, or does that transfer over from Milwaukee for you?
I did not grow up in Milwaukee, just my mother, so I feel like I
I
have
see.
a weird separation. I like an IPA. I am a porter stout dark beer girl. Those are my
that's fair.
Especially since moving up to Washington with all the local, like, good, freshly, like, brewed, on tap beer, which I didn't have as much when I was in LA. Big fan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of good stouts and dark beers, dark ales up here, especially in the winter. I mean, I love that about wintertime. All the winter ales come out, all the black ales that are a little like, they don't quite feel as much like eating a cake, which isn't really my favorite thing to do. But they still... they have that flavor profile. So I also appreciate a good stout, a good porter. So yeah, let's talk about what else we can appreciate, which is fun facts and trivia. These are going to be our fermented facts. Travis usually comes with 10. I'm going to give you like 5 from each movie. And then if you guys want to chip in, or if you know any fun facts that I don't mention, feel free to chime in with those. I get most of these facts off IMDb, so if you want to dig deeper than I dug, this is just a little teaser taste for you. So the voice of Moana in animated films declined to reprise the role in live action because she wanted to pave the way for another Pacific Islander to take the part. Though still received credit as a producer. I think that's a pretty cool move, especially when you're voicing a culture that maybe isn't your specific culture, and leaving that open for somebody else. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson did not do that. He reprised his role as Maui, and it was the first time an actor from a Disney animated film physically portrays the same character in a live-action remake. Only 4 other actors have done that, apparently. Jim Cummings as Winnie the Pooh and Tigger, Christopher Robin, Frank Welker in Aladdin, James Earl Jones in The Lion King, and Chris Sanders as Stitch in Lilo and Stitch. And that's like sort of a reprisal because those live actions, some of those characters are still animated. So that's an interesting way to do that. This is also The Rock's 6th Disney movie. If you guys didn't know that, that feels kind of crazy to me because to me, he's still like a wrestler, but he's been acting a long time. And he's been doing kids movies for a long time. I actually think I would rather see The Rock in a kids movie. Honestly, I think he's pretty good at it. Playing the role that he plays compared to like him in an action movie where it's like, you're just The Rock and there's not a lot of depth there. But that's my personal opinion. This is also Thomas Kail's film directorial debut. And if I pronounce that wrong, I'm sorry. Feel free to tell me in the comments, call me stupid in the comments, and then tell me how to pronounce it correctly, please, and I'll do it next time. And then the first trailer of this movie, of Moana 1, received 160 million online views within the first 24 hours it was released. So people heard about this movie. They were absolutely jacked. It had a ton of momentum behind it, not only because of the subject matter and the representation of the Pacific Island people, which is pretty lacking in mainstream media, but also because Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote the music and he was fresh off Hamilton. So there was a lot of momentum for this film. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson does not hurt either. Then a couple for the fun ones for the second movie. I thought it was interesting. Moana 2 outgrossed Moana in 3 weeks, which is pretty crazy.
Wow.
3 weeks at the box office. People were absolutely jacked about it, just like the first one, but now they kind of knew what they were getting. And when this film was released, obviously, it was tremendously successful, tremendously popular. Not quite up there with Frozen, but a pretty close, like, second in terms of the Disney lexicon. Then, and this is interesting one I found. So you guys sort of spoke to it, but the second movie does feel a lot different. And part of the reason for that is it was actually in development as a television series. And they got partway through that and decided to make it a movie instead and released it theatrically. So I think some of what you saw, as in the two villains maybe not feeling fully fleshed, I felt the same way. And now that kind of makes sense to me because my estimation is they plan on having 10 hours to flesh those villains and probably all those side characters rather than 2, makes a big difference. And then the actor of Chief Tui, I don't know how to pronounce your name, so I'm not going to butcher it, but did his own singing, so that's pretty cool. That is not the case in animated films as much as you might believe. It is not always the case. The voice is sometimes different than the voice singing. It just depends on who's cast. And yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty good. Do you guys have any fun facts that you really want to share? Zeb, what you got?
I have one, and it's more related to like the Disney filmography.
Mm-hmm.
Moana is the first Disney princess with no love interest.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of like getting back to Rachel's point, I think this is like a cool shift in the trend of like Disney heroines. Heroines?
Heroines.
Sorry.
Heroines.
Heroine.
No, that's a really interesting point, and that's a big part of removing the male gaze. I think like her interests are not tied directly to a man, unless you count Maui. I would be interested to see the Bechdel score for this one, just based on how often she talks about Maui and male identifying kind of gods. But I bet it still passes the Bechdel test. I don't know. What do you think, Rachel?
I bet it does. I'm thinking about like the beginning, all the conversations with her grandmother, with her mom. I guess all the monsters are kind of men, though, aren't they? Except for Tafiti.
Yeah, which might not be an accident. I did not. I didn't look that deeply into the villain's origins, but I'm sure that's not a total accident. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool because Disney princesses don't usually have much of a chance of passing that test with flying colors. She also like blatantly denies being a princess instead of wanting to be one at all because she has sort of a completely different social caste structure. And I thought that was interesting as well. Like it's kind of I felt like it was a cool way to transplant some of the dynamics of the Disney princesses of old onto a newer age, kind of, by like putting her in that different social hierarchy system where it's like chief's daughter, she's not treated as lesser because she's a woman, and that's sort of founded in the culture that this story comes out of. So I thought that was pretty cool as well, but I'll definitely be interested in hearing from both of you on that kind of stuff in my questions. Any other fun facts before we get into what we actually thought?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, in that case, Zeb, you'll also be good to tell us what you actually thought because you rolled low. So you had to say you hated this movie, but do you really? Why don't you give us the rundown on your true feelings regarding Moana and Moana 2?
Well, for anybody watching and they looking at my facial expressions, they probably could have told that I was lying through my teeth. I love these movies, man. These were so fun. I've watched the first Moana probably 5-6 times. Just, if it's on, I'm gonna watch it, and when there's not much else, on, it's always like a great background. And I had a friend, my roommate in college, used to leave on Disney movies on repeat for her dog, and so like Moana was one of the best because the music would like help settle the dog. So I'm a huge fan. Some of the critiques that I brought forth are actual critiques, but that it doesn't change the fact that these are still great Disney movies. So that's my true feelings. Sorry that I had to lie and trash these movies.
And it happens. It's all part of the show. Rachel, you also rolled a dice, so we'll let you go next. But do you truly love Moana as much as you say you did, or did you have to lie a little bit as well to get your side's point across?
This one was so hard for me because I'm so split on the two movies. Like, I love Moana 1. I love that movie, and I was so deeply disappointed by the second one, which is nothing I was surprised by. I feel like in general, the live action remakes and the sequels to these movies I love tend to always disappoint me because I just feel like the life and the heart and the thing that made them great is often the thing that's left out of the sequels, and they kind of take the story and kind of the surface stuff and repurpose it. And I feel like that's exactly what happened in the second one. It felt like the same plot told slightly differently with the same order of monsters and the same level of figure and the same, but like worse music, less interesting characters. Like, there's just, I think to your point in the debate, it was like, why? Nothing new happened. We didn't open anything new. Like, why do we need to do this? And now we're going to get a live action. It's like, great. Like, Also, one more thing about the live action. I feel like a live action Moana is like a live action Lion King, which is just going to be animation of a different sort.
Yeah,
it's not like that. It's all animated monsters and animated ocean, and so it's like, yes, you'll have some humans, but even most of them are demigods and will have to be modified and animated. So it's kind of like, what is the point of this? Money is the point. That's the point.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Like, if they were actually gonna get on some traditional Pacific Islander boats and like go out and do this stuff in real life, and maybe instead of a remake, like make Moana 3, make it live action and make the journey about that. I don't know. There's ways that they could interest me with it. They are not interesting me with it in the slightest, based on the plan that seems to be put forward. So I couldn't agree more, Rachel, because again, it's just different animation. It's a big green room.
I want to jump into that as well, because Polynesian culture has so much history. There's so much source material that you could actually like make an entirely new arc for the second movie. Like, the islands across the Pacific were steadily found by the Polynesian cultures. And we don't know if it was east to west or west to east. There's a huge debate on that. There's a huge debate on how long they stayed at each island. Like, and that's just the actual history of it. Not to mention the countless gods and like seafaring, like the languages were different. The cultures were different, even amongst close-knit islands, because they experienced that like separation for a bit and then came back together. Like, there's so much stuff they could have drawn from, and instead they went back to fighting monsters in the same playbook.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's like, I talk about this a lot in various things with emergence films, but I just think over the last, I don't even know, 5-10 years, it's like the studios have gotten so risk averse that they basically only want to put things out that they feel are a guaranteed success and will be palatable to everyone. And I think that's where art dies, is like when you're trying to make sure everyone likes it, chances are no one's going to like it. And I think that's what, I mean, these, the ratings on these films are bad because people go in with all the hope and love from the first movie and they're disappointed and like, yeah, you get all their dollars anyway, so I guess you won. But to me, it's like what has been suffering in our studio system is we're losing film as an art form. It's becoming this commoditized, mega system that is not about telling great stories anymore. And it makes me sad.
Yeah, it is really saddening. And it's the kind of thing that justifies the use of AI to make films and stuff like that, because they're already seeing For example, Travis always does the box office. I already mentioned it was a success, but I sort of forgot the segment itself. So let me just throw this in there to back up that point. Moana 1 in 2016 grossed 640 million worldwide, which is definitely a success. That's gross. So that's huge compared to its budget, obviously. And that's not even streaming numbers. That's just the box office. So that's people, for those of you who don't know, literally going to the theater, buying a movie ticket at the movie theater. But this, when you add the streaming in on Disney Plus and stuff, I mean, it was a massively successful, still is a successful film. And then Moana 2 surpassed $1 billion gross, which is bananas. Frozen made more than that, but it's bananas. And everything obviously is inflated in, another 5, 6, 7, 8 years after the first one, but still massively impressive numbers. And it's exactly the kind of stuff that justifies what you're saying, Rachel, because if they make $1 billion, they don't give a shit how it was written.
Totally see AI stepping in and taking over writing the sequels, because why not? I mean, they essentially take the plot line of Moana, but just make it a little different. And AI does that all day, Marvel movies, all of it. It's and there's a market for that, and that's great. I think it just makes it so important that we've got both, right? That exists, but then where are the filmmakers making independent films and art, and how do we get those out so people can watch those? For those of us craving a meal and not a snack.
Yeah, yes. Well said on the right on the tail end of the proposed merger with Paramount and whoever else is involved, Warner Brothers, and terrifying. People are, as I've been slowly diving into more of the Substack culture with Meathead Media and with Fermented Fiction and connecting with other creatives. There's a huge amount of people that are now buying physical copies of all assortment of movies, from French existentialism to whatever's on the opposite end of that, because people are afraid that these streaming services are just going to have an absolute run on all media. They're just going to have a monopoly, and it's going to be pay $5 to rewatch your favorite movies for no reason other than they own it. And that too is the death of art, because you're taking away people's freedom to choose what they want to watch, or go to I still remember going to the DVD store, a rental store as a kid, and getting movies for the weekend. It was great. It was super exciting.
Yep.
Yeah, we grew up doing that too, in Montana. So I missed that. I mean, there was still a Blockbuster in Kalispell when I was a kid, which those are certainly a thing of the past now. Even Redbox and stuff like that was fun. And I am one of those people. We just actually bought a box set of It's Always Sunny, because they took it off where it used to be, and now it's on Hulu, and I don't want to pay for Hulu. So here we are. And they've already got that stranglehold. It's just diversified against 8 platforms. Once they all solidify, I mean, they'll do whatever the hell they want. I think there is a level to that where it'll sort of balance out in a way. I think it will create more successful indie markets. I think it'll be hard for indie markets will never be as successful as the huge studios. They're still going to be indie, but I think it will cultivate an environment where people appreciate indie film more to the degree it should be appreciated, and hopefully fosters some growth in the career departments for indie filmmakers and indie writers and all kinds of indie artists. I was reading an article just the other day of this one college, all the students are actually petitioning to do handwritten assignments again, because they're sick of people bringing AI bullshit into their literature writing classes. And it's you think you're changing everything, and we're just going to have to go along with it. But at a certain level, people love art, and we're going to protect that over a lot of other stuff, because there's not many things more important to humanity as a whole than art, I don't think. It's right up there with spiritualism. For some people, it is spiritualism. For me, it is. I'm not religious, but I consider art my religion, honestly. That's what I worship. That's what I read. It's kind of my prayer every day. I read before I go to bed. I read when I wake up. It's the first thing and last thing I do every single day. So I think a lot of people kind of share that fervor for it. I know the three of us on here certainly do, and Jeremy and Travis do, and most of our guests I've talked to do. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's some room for a little bit of optimism, but yeah,
the pendulum will swing. I mean, it feels like we're reinventing cable. Like all of these streaming platforms are bringing ads back, and that's one of the reasons why I got rid of Disney Plus. I was like, I was already paying to see the Disney movies. I didn't want to get ads. I can just go to the Disney Channel.
Mm-hmm.
it's just cable 2.0.
Yeah.
Because they realize the streaming, it's not, unless you're Amazon and you have a whole other pipeline of or Apple where you don't really need the streamer to make you money. This is Rue.
Hi, Rue. You're so pretty.
They're actually really struggling to make money. Wow, yeah, this is
awesome.
It's Rue's house. You're just living in it.
Let's get in here, see Rue up close and personal. Hi, Rue. You're beautiful. I love cats, so this is my
we call her our sweet little smooth brain. She's not the brightest bean, but she's very sweet.
Yeah,
smooth as marble.
Yeah.
I see only sweetness in those eyes.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, my cat sometimes makes an appearance. Viewers of the show will know. She especially loves to do the smash her face into my microphone, which is just awesome on air. But yeah, she's not here today because she'd be sleeping. Yeah. I guess before we get to our break and everything, I should probably say what I thought of Moana 2. This is actually my first time watching it, either of them.
Really?
When it came out, I, for whatever reason, didn't get caught up in the buzz. I did go through a pretty long drought of not really watching any new Disney movies, much in the way people stagnate musically. I sort of stagnated on animation for a while, was pretty happy with my Mulan and The Jungle Book and the stuff I grew up on, which, I mean, I will always stand by Mulan is the best Disney movie, but we can fight about that another time. Anyway, I quite liked Moana. Moana 2 is terrible. Yeah. And that seems to be sort of the general consensus of the whole panel. I am a huge fan of Lin-Manuel Miranda's music, in particular his composition. I love his infusion of rap into his lyrics too, because I'm a huge rap fan. And it was fun to listen to The Rock do that little bit, because I've actually seen him do that live on a sports show before, on the Pat McAfee show. But it was interesting to see it in the movie, because I had heard it before, just completely unrelated, and I was like, oh, that's that one. I remember that. But I had a lot of fun with this movie. I love the ocean. I am a surfer. So I love, I think they did a really good job with the animation in this movie too. Just the ocean animation was beautiful. That first scene where the shell washes up on the beach and she walks out into the sea and it just kind of parts around her and you can still see everything happening under the water. I mean, I've seen that in real life and it's the coolest thing to see, a seal through the wave or something. It's such a cool thing to witness. And I really felt like I was there. I've also been to Hawaii a few times. I love Hawaii. And just seeing it all kind of come to life. It was absolutely beautiful. And the main theme, the How Far It Goes or whatever it's called, I don't remember that. I don't know the title of that song, but that song's beautiful. And I like the vintage Miranda reprisals that sort of grow in significance to the story throughout the film. He does the same thing in Hamilton. He does the same thing in his other play that I'm drawing a blank on. That's about the Latin. Yes, thank you. Into the Heights, also a good musical. But yes, they he always likes to do that. He has his main character theme, and then he builds its relevance to the story throughout, changes the lyrics slightly, and then those reprisals. I mean, it's a classic musical theater technique, but to see it applied in a film, especially a Disney film, kind of rare, because it's not really the poppiest move. And Disney movies are always pop musical theater, whereas I feel like Miranda tries to take it to that next level. It felt like a Broadway play, and that was awesome. So I liked all those aspects of it, but do you guys have anything to weigh in on, given all that stuff I just blabbered about?
I'm going to push back on that pop musical thing you just said there.
That's fair.
I'm gonna bring it back to my favorite Disney movie, Hunchback of Notre Dame.
That doesn't count. That doesn't count.
But was Hunchback, was it a musical first, or was it I think that one was actually a musical before it was a movie.
Yes.
So that makes sense.
It does make sense, but I'm just pushing back for funsies.
No, you're totally right. And Hunchback is not a pop musical. And when I say pop musical, I am kind of going by the theatrical standards. Like when they talk about a pop musical, they mean one that has a repeating chorus and is kind of structured like a pop song. And when I did the musical theater workshop back in college, and we went and learned from some Broadway writers or whatever, they were all kind of like putting their nose in the air about that structure for any musical ever. Like every song in a musical they thought should sort of like evolve and move forward like a narrative in itself, like you see in the music in the Hunchback. There's not a whole lot of choruses, there's not a whole lot of repetition, and Lin-Manuel Miranda kind of does both. Because I think he is a writer of the modern age, and the modern age does want a chorus, because a chorus makes things more recognizable. A chorus makes it easier to recall it. A chorus makes it easier to sing along. But he still does that reprisal thing, and I think he builds on the chorus structured songs in a different way that I think is pretty, frankly, revolutionary. And I think it's a big reason that Hamilton was such a success, because he sort of snuck that in there while still satisfying the commercial people who want those choruses. But what do you think about all that, Rachel? You're an actress.
I mean, I love his music in this, and I struggle with I'm a musical theater actress too. That was my background. So like I've done, South Pacific and The King and I, and Jesus Christ Superstar, and like
nice.
all those musicals, and then some of the newer ones like Waitress, and that are and Lizzie, the rock musical, which I did recently, which was, I didn't do Waitress, I would want to do Waitress, but I did so a spectrum. But I've always struggled with the older school kind of more classic musicals like Les Mis, or like what's another good example, Candide, or the Mikado. Like the music feels, it leans more towards kind of like operatic almost, and it tells a story. To me, I get like because I just feel like there's no songs that kind of click and stay with you. Kind of you continue through, and that kind of music doesn't speak to me as much. Similarly with like the older, like Oklahoma and those kind of campier musicals. So I think I'm actually excited by, in some ways, the direction musicals have been going, both in movies and on stage. But on the other hand, they seem to more and more be focusing this one particular kind of voice, which is the Idina Menzel Broadway belt. And if you can't do that, you're kind of because there used to be the like coloratura soprano roles and like the sweeter singing roles, and now it's like you got to belt the shit out of it or you don't have it. And that annoys me. I think variety is good, and giving opportunity to different kinds of people and different kinds of voices and different kinds of musicians. And so I think of both and all.
There you go. I mean, I think that's the only appropriate answer really to everything I just spewed out, unless I was just talking out of my ass the entire time. So I'm glad to hear that maybe I wasn't. Yeah, and Lynn is certainly guilty of what you just said as well. Like, he certainly has plenty of belting in his songs. In particular, that one I mentioned in Moana. It's that nice round O sound, and you can really let that thing rip if you got the voice for it. And she certainly does, which is why I found that song moving. But he also does the other thing you're talking about, which is, incorporating various structures and types of music, getting the rap in there, getting some banter, and kind of, I think he's really reviving the banter character, which is like a whole character that they used to reserve for people who couldn't sing. It's good to see Manuel reserving some heavy rap parts, some high, really up-tempo singing stuff that doesn't necessarily require the strongest voice, but you can still showcase some powerful vocal talents in a role like that in a different way.
I have a question for the both of you on this specific topic. Do you think Lin-Manuel Miranda was the first to do some of this? Because I have perhaps a hot take.
I guarantee he's not the first to do it. And it kind of depends on what you think or what you define as like rap, I guess. Rap's a really young genre, though, and has certainly been disparaged by the upper crust of performance society for a good chunk of that short existence. So he probably is, he's got to be one of the first to incorporate on a large scale and on a big main Broadway stage successfully a rap musical like Hamilton, or like In the Heights even has a bit of banter stuff. But I'm sure he's not the first person. I'm sure there's a million like smaller plays out there that never see the lights of Broadway that do plenty of that kind of stuff. But he's the first I know of that has succeeded to the degree that it has. But what about you, Rachel?
I don't really know. I mean, I agree with you. It's unlikely he's the first, but I think he made rap palatable to an audience who wouldn't usually consume rap. And I think that's what made it, easier to digest. I mean, again, there's so many artists who are incredible, who are never, ever going to reach that level of success. And that's just the nature of life, right? So, but what's your hot take? I want to hear it.
This better be hot.
So, okay. This, in the context of what we're just talking about, I think Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat, the play, which has seen the light of day on a Broadway stage, I think is like one of the first to do a lot of, from what I'm understanding, what Lin-Manuel Miranda has really mastered. That's
I don't remember that music at all.
Yeah, I don't either. I certainly remember Hunchback. And honestly, when I hear Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat, my brain forgets it and remembers Prince of Egypt instead.
Prince of Egypt.
Because that movie's soundtrack is fucking chilling. Just like the Hunchback. Those are two of the best like animated musical theater villains of all time, I think. I mean, they're just like their songs in particular. Those villain songs are just amazing. And they literally like, it's one of my questions later in the show when we get to our panel after the break here in a minute, is about like, how does music affect the tension and the stakes? Whether it detracts or adds to it, I think is dependent on a lot of factors. So we're going to talk about that. But speaking specifically to those villains, I think that those are good examples of where music can it can stir up things that aren't stirred up by just dialogue. But then it can go the other way, which I think does happen in Moana a little bit, especially in Moana 2, obviously. But let's talk about that after the break. We're right here near the hour. The show moves a lot faster when there's 2 less people on the screen, and that is a good thing. So let's go ahead and we're going to get to our 5-minute break here. Any closing thoughts from you two while I upload this video? This 5-minute break video. Give me some closing thoughts on Moana, and if you don't have any, just give me the thing you're least looking forward to about the live action.
Oh, what a loaded question there.
You know what I'm not looking forward to in the live action? Them adding in extra stupid songs written by someone else that aren't going to be as good, that you don't need for some random character, like they've done in every single live action. And every time there's a new song, I'm like, great. Why? Not as good. Didn't need it.
Yeah. I'm not looking forward to the live action because they always use as an opportunity to do way more world building than is needed. Like, the live action is going to have 14,000 other characters now, and 12 million other islands that are somehow involved in the plot line, and you kind of just lose the traction that you're trying to build.
And somehow it'll be 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, how are you going to get all those islands in there? All right, that'll bring us to the break, everybody. So Rachel, go ahead and turn off your camera and your mic. Zeb, do the same so that it kicks you off the screen. And I'm going to run this thing. We'll see you guys on the other side in 5 minutes. Hello, fermented folks. Welcome to another episode of Fermented Fiction, the first of our new season, and I believe it's season 4, the show where we drink beer and argue with each other and bring on really awesome creative guests.
If you'll permit me to go a little bit outside the box, once upon a time, apparently people used to sniff mummy remains, powdered mummy remains like cocaine. So I think 3 lines of powdered mummy remains, if you can get to that as well, yeah, that'll get you right to really enjoy the movie, you know.
Dave told us all about making a mead, and I talk shit about Tom Bombadil, as I am wont to do whenever people bring up Lord of the Rings.
You would. You should.
And then that's
Everybody
exactly what he
freaking
made.
chill about Tom Bombadil, or I'll get unreasonably upset.
So, in your assessment, what did you think of the everyone kind of paired off, or at least a number of people did, romantically? How did you feel about that? Did that seem really forced and dumb to you, or?
Tom Bombadil is a merry old fellow with his bright blue jacket and his boots are yellow. Right?
His boots are yellow.
Right.
Imagine discovering mummy remains and oh my god, these ancient figures. Dude, what if we crushed this and snorted it, yo? I bet we'd get fucked up.
Let's talk for a moment about the fucking all-star cast in this movie. We have Ewan McGregor slaughtering it the entire time, main character energy, top to bottom. You can't argue with it. Women want him, men want him, everybody wants Ewan McGregor. Okay? If you don't agree with that, you're lying to yourself.
Apparently she had a backstory, but they cut it because she's very hard-nosed at the beginning. And then I will say another pro of this movie is their chemistry is hot. And I feel if they didn't have that chemistry, I would have been ugh. Because she says at one point, she's oh, it's the apocalypse. What are we going to do? Fuck. And he's and then later when they are kissing, if they didn't have chemistry and if it was 2 lesser actors, I think it would have been an eye roll, felt cheesy, but you feel their bond.
The Langoliers themselves were originally going to be portrayed by puppets. And I think maybe they should have. Maybe they should have.
Dude, that's amazing.
There's no maybe about that.
And I wish that I could say that there was something greater happening here than the war diary of a broken man living as sort of this White Tower academic with all of his friends sitting inside the Eagle and Child drinking beer and pretending Magic Lion Jesus isn't really silly. Because, it is. If we can just all be very honest with each other.
The Lord's work out there. Good job.
I like to think that I am. Most people aren't big enough, but I am. I'm willing to step up,
Yeah. Dedicate that
yeah,
time. You're willing to dedicate that time.
The time, the money, all of it.
That was so painful. It's one of those painful things.
That was so good.
Life.
That was so good. We've never been so savagely attacked by any author on their show. It's incredible.
Welcome back, everybody, to Fermented Fiction. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about Moana and Moana 2 with Rachel Noll-James, an actress, filmmaker, and co-founder of Emergence Films here in Washington State. And you can look up her IMDb and find a bunch of awesome stuff she has directed, written, acted in, etc. Rachel, thanks again for being on the show. And then we got Zeb here too from Meathead Media. He's our boy. He's writing our blog articles every single week. If you like movie reviews, go subscribe to Meathead Media on Substack, and check out what he's doing because he works hard and he does a great job. Zeb, thanks for being here too, buddy.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Thanks for the shout out. We love what we're doing over there at Meathead Media, and the only thing I'll add is every month has a fun theme. This month's theme is Turning the Page, and we most recently reviewed Marty Supreme. So depending on if you've seen it or not, or if you want to just read some spoilers, give that article a check out. I had a lot of fun writing it.
Yeah, I just queued it up on my own computer, but I haven't gotten to it yet because I am waiting to watch the movie myself. I'm one of those people who hate spoilers, but there are some people who enjoy movies more if they know what's going to happen, apparently. My wife's one of those people, and she sent me a whole article on it once that I still refuse to read because I think that's bullshit.
The article has spoilers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a spoiler all in itself. Not interested. But yeah, here we are, other side of the 5-minute break on fermented fiction, which means we are into our panel section, and we'll do this until we don't want to anymore, or until it's at the 2-hour mark. Rachel, we're really glad you're riding with us tonight. So I do want to start just with sort of I want to do this question that we have tossed around on this show a lot, because my brother is a philosophy guy and a theology guy. He is a devout Catholic. He's cool about it, but he is a very devout Catholic. I believe you are too, Zeb. That is correct, right? Yes. Yep. We have a lot of Catholics on this show. Jeremy also a Catholic, so I'm actually one of the only ones who's not. But you know, we keep it real. So we have this argument about whether there is objective truth or everything is relative. I'm a big believer that there is no objectivity, but that's easier when you're not religious. And Travis believes that there are objective truths. But when you get into art, I think that argument gets particularly sticky. Because it's really hard to say this movie's good or this movie sucks, because there's so many different ways to look at a movie. There's so many different types of people who are watching movies for different reasons. And they might like something that you don't like for reasons that you consider defects of the movie that for them are actually good. What I do believe in is like tiers of objectivity and then subjective comparison thereafter. So like, I think there's a level of objective good in terms of just how well the movie is made, how good the performances are, the singing is actually good. That has to be met before you can consider it like good, and then you can kind of compare it to everything else after that subjectively. So given that sort of framework, Rachel, do you believe in any kind of that framework, or do you believe there's objectively good movies? And then is Moana one of those, and why? You can leave out the second movie because we've all agreed that it isn't.
Let's just put it down. Let's put it down.
It's gone. We're just talking about Moana now.
I love this question. I am such a believer in the subjectivity of art. And I love what you said about this thing about how it's so hard to, we are forced to review and rate movies based on like 1 star or 10 stars. And as a filmmaker, I can personally attest to how difficult this is, because you get reviews on Amazon or IMDb or whatever, and the same movie, one person will give you 10 stars and rave about how much they loved the soundtrack. And they won't say, I love the soundtrack. They'll say, this soundtrack is phenomenal. Next person will give it 1 star and say, this soundtrack is the worst soundtrack I've ever heard. And I was on an airplane once, and this airplane had a mechanism for review that I loved. And I wish we could incorporate more than like good, bad, as if it's objective. This movie sucks, this movie's good. But the question was, is this movie for you? Yes, no. And it helped curate a list of other things to pitch you based on your answer. And to me, like, that's the real question. It's like, oh, that movie wasn't for me. Like, to your point, there are some movies that are like the sound is horrendous or the acting is so bad that it's distracting. And again, even bad acting is subjective, but like to your own personal taste. So I feel like everything is to your personal taste. So the idea that like you're rating art as objectively good or bad, when I think the real question is this for you or is this not for you? And so if we were able to rate art based on that scale, how different would it feel for the artists and for the consumers to just say, that movie wasn't for me, or that movie was like totally my jam. That just has such a different feeling to it. And to me is just so much more truthful. So like what the experience is with any art form.
Yeah, I completely agree, because it gets wild once you start trying to objectify any sort of standards. Because like you said, so like if a movie's being seen by a really big audience, generally I feel like it has passed enough filters of some kind that the production quality is usually relatively high. Like we are speaking from a place of being indie filmmakers, so we've both sat in a film festival theater and watched something with like, you didn't have a lavaliers, did you? This is just all boom. But like that doesn't usually happen in like anything blockbuster. But I do feel like the writing can still slip through the cracks as long as there's plenty of other things. Like the writing can fall by the wayside more often than almost anything else. And the other thing is performances.
So often.
It does.
Does this, like, how do you not invest more of the energy into this? Because you can have the best actors in the world, the best cinematographer, the most incredible director, and if you have a bad script, you're toast.
Yep, exactly. And there's plenty of movies where I watch it and I'm like, this is a bad performance from a good actor, but you can only perform what's on the page and what your director makes you do to a certain degree. So that's also part of it. And if you're not in the industry, then that doesn't matter to you. And you're just going to see that as like, maybe that actor actually sucks. Which
Well,
can.
and I've noticed too, like on the indie side, right? It's like my film Ingress, we have what 195 ratings, right? Which with 195 ratings, every rating makes a really big impact.
Yeah.
So one person gives you 1 star and you're like, oh my God, it's down to 5 out of 10. God damn it. And it's so frustrating. But like, I think people watching movies on Amazon, they don't differentiate. Like the ones who go in and like some people will go to the Instagram page of my film and be like, this movie sucks. And I'm like, you have no idea that I am the one who owns this page and I'm going to go read that and cry. Like they put that movie in the same category as like Avatar. They're gonna go trash Avatar because they didn't like it. Like I think there's not this sense when people are watching movies of like, oh, there's an artist sitting at their house looking at every single one of these ratings and reviews and having feelings about it. Like I think we've created such a disconnect between the artist and the consumer through the course of like film's history that like, yeah, there's a lack of connection to, you know, understanding how difficult it is. And like to your point, like no one's going to say, oh, that she probably wasn't directed very well in that scene. They're just gonna be like, she sucks.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know, that's part of the subjectivity that in so many ways can outweigh any real objectivity from my perspective. But Zeba, as somebody who reviews movies very regularly and ardently, and probably does believe in some objective truth as a Catholic, what do you have to say about this?
Yeah, the Catholic part
spectacles, wallet, watch.
Yeah, the Catholic part really is the objectivity. In movies and movie reviews, what I look for are some of just the key elements. So is the storyline one that keeps me invested, and is the dialogue performed in a way that is actually like cohesive with the character? I think that's relatively objective. Like, did the person perform it well, and was the script enough to be, you know, keeping me through the film? Like when I watch a movie, the first thing that I'll like notice halfway through is like, do I believe that they're acting, or am I totally immersed in this character and I can't believe that this is an actor? Like, do I think this is a real person? Sound and like sound design only really starts to matter when there's a difference between indie films and like the blockbuster films, but that I don't think is as objective. What I think is more objective with sound design is more that tonal shift that comes with the music or like the score of the film. So sometimes in films there are scores that just really don't add up, don't match the tone of what I'm seeing on the screen. Like if I hear a Blink-182 song and it's like a really emotional, like it's supposed to be like a really emotional like moment, I'm completely lost. I'm totally out of the scene, and I'm thinking more about like why they chose a Blink-182 song. Then there's the piece of me that's like a total history buff and like an actual history nerd, where I'm, especially in war documentaries, where I'm like, if you guys would have asked any of the millions of nerds that like curate Wikipedia pages if this was, you know, accurate to the time, you would have saved yourself a lot of criticism. Because like stuff I'll see in war movies or like period pieces is like, that actually wouldn't have been there, you know? Like just today I was watching a movie set in 1939 where they mentioned a black hole, and I was like, no, Einstein and his theory of relativity and black holes only came about much later, not 1939. In fact, he left Germany because he was being persecuted for being a Jew and a scientist. So that doesn't fit, you know, like certain things like that. I think are objective. Like you have to meet these certain marks to not pull people out of the story that might find those little critiques.
Can I like gently rebuttal that?
Yeah, please.
Okay,
Take this full screen as a yes.
Objective to you, but so subjective still, because you might watch that and be like, oh, the script is slow. It's not like pulling me in, but the person sitting next to you might be like, I loved every second of this script. So that's where I feel like the subjectivity comes in, because it may be an objective truth for you, but it's not going to be an objective truth for everybody who watches it, right?
I think that's a great counterpoint. I'm willing to concede that. Yeah. Yeah. How about this? I'm going to watch more movies to get a better sense of it.
There you go. Keep reviewing them, watching them as a critic. It's a great way to watch a movie. And it does put on a different critical perspective for you, a different lens. I really love this conversation, and I'm excited to have it with new people because I've re-had it with Travis like a million times. So this is exciting for me. It made me think of some interesting wrinkle to it because, ironically, I think the least objective argument is the strongest argument for objectivity, and that is the "you know when you see it" argument. And I do think that is a real thing. And I think there are some movies that they hit you with that almost universally. Like, I do think that Hamilton has that. Speaking of Lin-Manuel Miranda, but there's a reason it blew up to the extent that it did, because there are moments in that play where it's almost like arguably objective greatness being performed.
But there's still going to be people who are going to hate it. So
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. I do agree. I just think that there is a certain level of, I don't know, you know when you see it. You don't think there's any weight to that, Rachel, where there's a that you know when you see it factor?
Oh, I do. I just think it's so personal. Like, I believe in personal objectivity. Like, there are things that for me, I'm like, that is objectively good to me. But I think it just starts to fall apart when you try to extend it to every single person who's going to watch or consume something, because people are so wildly different and weird. And some people will watch a movie with terrible sound and it won't bother them, but like they'll watch a movie with, you know, so it's like, it's so like, in that wow factor, that moment we've all had where we're sitting and watching or observing art and we're like, this has moved me to the depths of my soul. And then you look to the person next to you and they're like, meh. Like, I feel like I've had so many of those experiences that I feel like the idea of any piece of art being objectively good or bad to the whole population of humans watching it, I just don't believe in.
No, I don't either. I'm kind of playing devil's advocate to myself and sticking up for Travis, who isn't here. He'd do a better job of it. Zeb, you want to give it a try? What do you think? There's anything to that? You know it when you see it factor, and then can we all as a group tie this to Moana? Like, where does Moana fit on that scale? What do you think, if anything, in that is objectively pretty good, or at least personally objectively good to you? Go ahead, Zeb.
Sure. I'm going to tie this in with a story in a different medium, but I think it relates. So I went to the Chicago Art Museum, and out of curiosity, and because I had taken an art class, I went to the abstract art section, where one such piece was a blank canvas with like a black dot right in the middle, and it was called The Void. And I was like, somebody is doing a cash grab here. Like, there's no way. Right? Like, this can't be it. This is in the Chicago Art Museum. So just for funsies, I like stood back and I walked to like a corner, but I kept my eye on the piece and tried to people watch as people came by, and like they did their classic the critique pose. They're like, yes, I see what the artist is getting at here. And for me, I was like, okay, maybe there is something to it if it actually speaks to people, because I'll never know what they truly believe. If like the title and that one black dot really resonates, and it's like, no, somebody right now is connecting with that being the void, right? I can't actually talk bad about the piece from my perspective, because art, just like beauty, is in the eye of the beholder. Mm-hmm. So tying it back to something like Moana, think about how many millions of kids watched Moana 2 and were like, this is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. I'm only 6 years old, and this is probably like, my 10th movie. This is the greatest piece of of media that
let's fudge and go, dude.
Yeah, right? Like, this is an absolute banger. I can't believe I get not one, but two Moanas, right?
Come on.
So it's I feel like I'm backtracking pretty hard in my objectivity stance, but I really liked Rachel's point about individual objectivity. And you know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know, right? you and I and Rachel as well, we're kind of like cursed with knowing all of these different critiques. And so it becomes difficult to look at something and not like, oh, what is this? What is this? Oh, what about this? I would have done this. And whereas like a kid watching Moana is like 100% totally would have done the same. Maui is the best.
Absolutely.
What a guy. Like he pulled an island. What an absolute stud.
That's true.
Yeah.
And that's why I believe in objective tiers. Like I do think you could like sort of analyze it from a more statistical way, which I find it ironic that you have to argue for the more abstract concept of relativity with stats. And you kind of have to start to argue for the more concrete art of objectifying things with like loosey-goosey terms, like you know it when you see it. But it is kind of, maybe that is where you could start to make an argument again for objectivity. If there's enough alignment of individual objectivity to a certain degree, it's like a higher tier of objectivity, which is, I believe there's like levels to it, right? I think there's some shows that are really good but aren't great, and you'd find statistically that maybe a lot of people would agree with you, but I don't know.
Yeah, my fear, and Rachel brought this up earlier, it was a great point. I think that those objective tiers are starting to get really lax. Like
absolutely,
Marvel movies, which used to be statistically fantastic and are still statistically fantastic, have kind of dropped off. Like
absolutely,
Avengers Endgame was peak cinema for a lot of reasons, and now it's like it could be better.
Well, and you do see in the reviews, I feel like the box office gives them smashing numbers, but you go and look at the reviews and they're not good because people aren't enjoying them. So, but again, it's when you have the privilege of having a massive audience, then to your point, Clay, I think you do start to see things averaging in a direction where it's like the majority of people feel a certain way about it, which gives it a sense of being one thing or the other. But I still think then that the problem with that is those smaller pool maybe of people who would either would like love this thing, maybe they'll never watch it because it's bad.
Yeah.
But maybe they would absolutely love it because it's for them. And so like, I don't know. I feel like especially, you know, for someone who like reviews films and you do that, like to change the languaging to this wasn't for me or like, and I haven't read your review, so you may already do this, but just this notion, so many reviewers will say, this is shit, or like this sucked, or this is bad. This was good. This was beautiful. This was wonderful. But I think this wasn't for me. This movie was not for me. I did not get it. I did not like it. That feels so different. And it leaves openings for people to be like, well, maybe this is for me though. Like I still want to watch it. I don't know. I'm into a world with more subjectivity and more acknowledgement of it because I think it's more true and it allows space for us to be more courageous in seeking out the things that we really resonate with without being sort of diverted by the populist sort of opinion of good or bad.
Can I please follow up?
I agree.
I think that was a great point. And this was a question I had for you since you're in a dual role as both a director and an actress. How do you manage that tension between like protecting the story and like what you really want to tell and like the courage that comes with that, but also protecting like the business aspect of it because you want it to reach people and get out there, but also still be your story?
You know, it's hard. And like my films to date have been very much in the indie space. And the nice thing about the indie space is you're not getting Tom Cruise or the big actors in it. So you're already kind of playing in a different tier where you know the way you're going to get to your audiences is going to be a different route. And so I think like on Ingress in particular, because I was acting and directing in that one, it became like a huge lesson in self-trust and surrender where it's like, I did all the prep. Like I knew the story inside and out. I backed it. I loved it. I brought the team members on who also backed it and loved it. We were all on the same creative page. And then when we got to set, it was like, now it's just time to let go. And I think that's such a huge lesson in creating art of any kind is like, whether I'm in the moment as a character or I'm watching behind the camera, it's like letting yourself be surprised and kind of like we were saying with Moana about like not being the like hero's journey. It's like sometimes those moments, like I would go in with a vision and I thought I knew exactly what the scene should be, but then the scene would surprise me because an actor would do something I didn't expect, or I as an actor in it would feel a way I didn't expect. And then I went, oh shit, this scene is about something totally different. And I could have stuck rigidly to my original vision and my plan, but I think the film would have suffered for it. So I think it's like, I really believe in trust and surrender with art, where it's like there's this kind of force, whether you call it God or a muse or inspiration. It's like I've always felt that when I'm in the flow with art. It's like there's a presence there where if you're paying attention, you're kind of being shown and things are showing up and you're feeling things. And if you trust those feelings, it always turns out better than if you overthink it. That's been my experience.
I totally agree. It's like when the ocean reaches out and is like, "What's up, Moana?" That's how it feels when like you get into that zone where you're like, "Oh, my story is telling itself." And when you learn how to let that happen and how to enjoy it and just follow it, I think that's the key to like leveling up in your art. And I think you have to refine it time and time again, because you get good at one stage and then you're like, I still am struggling with all these things. And then you'll see a little thread and you'll be like, oh, my character's going that way, and turns out I've been thinking about this thing a lot and I think that character's going to go resolve it for me, and I won't even know until I'm like 9 drafts in and I'm like, my editor's like, hey, you shouldn't have cut that part, and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess not. That kind of thing. So it is a truly amazing experience, and you can experience it at every level of the creative process. Just to end that note and transfer into, I would really like to discuss the musical tension thing. I do want to throw out this tip though, listeners, watchers. If you really love a movie, like it's a 10 out of 10 for you, it's your barometer movie for before you're going to propose to your fiance. You're like, I got to make sure she likes this movie first, or he likes this movie first, right? Like, let me make sure that this movie, because otherwise this won't have the longevity that I think it will. That movie for you. Find out who the director is and find out who the writers are and go watch other things that they've made. I guarantee you're going to find some more movies that you're like, well, to be really sure I want to marry this person, I better make sure they like this movie too. So that's my advice. Follow directors. A good actor is certainly worth watching a movie for, but make sure it's going to be a good movie, because sometimes you'll see your favorite actor in a shite movie and then you're even more bummed out. So yeah, I don't know if you guys want to say anything else to that effect, or if you disagree with that. I would love to hear it.
I agree with that. My barometer movie, which I made my wife watch, was Gladiator. Like anything with a Hans Zimmer score, like if I don't see at least a single tear by the end of the film, I'm like, kind of dubious.
Yeah. You're watching that wheat scene and you're like, dude, what's her problem over there?
The last part, I'm like, if you're not crying like real tears, I don't know if I trust your emotional state.
That's fair.
But I think it's a good point. Using Gladiator as like an example, Ridley Scott has a fantastic filmography and a lot of fantastic movies. Hans Zimmer, to the music point, man, that guy does not miss.
No.
Yeah.
I love the inclusion of the music. That's a great transfer into the question. But I would also, since we're on it, Rachel, do you have a barometer movie? Obviously, you're married, so he passed the test at some point. But do you have a movie like that is like your favorite movie ever? And if you were watching it with someone, it would affect the level of friendship you had with them. Like if you saw they didn't like it, you'd be like, But if you saw they like it, you're going to be like,
best friends forever.
That's my dog right there. Yeah.
I have the hardest time with this question because I feel like I like so many movies and it changes depending on my mood and what phase of life I'm in. I have some standards, but I think from like a barometer movie, and this one's so silly, but like my whole childhood and then into adulthood, my family, every Christmas, we watch the Santa Claus together.
Hell yeah.
And it's, but I'm like, listen, can you get on the Santa Claus train with my family and get into watching that every Christmas? And
now that's a great one, because that's also a family tradition. So you're seeing a whole bunch of social interaction stuff. Yeah, nice move.
Yeah. So I'm going to think about that barometer movie though, because I don't know. I don't know anymore.
That's okay. I'm also willing to accept, whatever it is now. I'm sure mine changed too. But generally speaking, I have two. And one is largely for the score. It's also to make sure that this person has a little bit of patience to let the art pay off. And that one is The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. I love that fucking movie. And like, if you don't like that movie, we might not be able to be friends. You two are nodding, so I'm willing to finish the episode, but now that's out there. Now we all know. But that score by Nick Cave and Warren Ellis is a thing of beauty. It's a masterclass on like doing lighting on an indie set. It's one of the best examples of that I've ever seen. And then like the cast is amazing. Like the fact that that movie didn't do better is a crime.
Hamish Rogers is on camera. He's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that film's beautiful.
It's a great film, but it's super slow. So you do have to have some patience, and you have to let the art like earn its payoff. And the payoff is kind of like, yeah, that's not what you thought, is it? Being a star, which was great. And then my other one's Cabin in the Woods for the opposite of like all those reasons. Just like that movie's just fucking awesome and hilarious, and I need you to be into satire because I'm a big satire guy. But you know,
I think I have one.
Oh yes,
this is my for now one, but
okay,
Arrival with Amy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because it's like it's just a different vibe. I think you have to like pay attention and like whether you get it or not. Like I got it. The first time I watched that movie, I was like, I understand everything you're doing. It's brilliantly written. I get it. I was so in. But the couple people I went with did not get it, and I had to explain it to them. And I was like, oh, come on. So I feel like that sort of getting into the depths of it and really understanding a movie like that and having a good conversation about it afterwards.
I love Arrival too. You have an article on that, don't you, Zeb?
I think we do. If not, we got one coming out.
Okay. Yeah. I thought I saw it, but I'm not sure. I can't remember. If Meathead does, you should go read it. I'm sure it's great. I'm going to do the same because clearly I haven't. Yes, Rachel, great barometer movie. Arrival's awesome. And it's got just enough like convolution in the writing, but if you read a lot, you're definitely going to recognize what it's doing, like you said, pretty right away. But I think it's a good like stair step movie too into like movies that are trying to be a little more literary in their script, a little more convoluted. Not as I'm going to tell you exactly.
Yeah. They don't spoon feed it to you.
Yeah, exactly. They
leave enough clues that you can follow, and it's to me that's a really good script that does that well. It doesn't lead you too much, but it leads you just enough that you feel like you're discovering it on your own. That's magic.
Right. It's like the difference between eating with a spoon and chopsticks. Like they can be pretty equally efficient as long as you know how to use them and you're not afraid to like slurp from the bowl a little bit. Get in there. All right. That's a way less effective transition to my musical question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you guys ever feel like musical numbers, especially in animation, cut from the tension of a scene or lower the stakes of a scene due to the sort of frivolity and further extension of your disbelief that you have to accept, right? The fact that people are singing, for me, sometimes like I'm like, okay, I mean, this maybe isn't the time for that. Especially like singing in a big fight song. In Moana particularly, I thought the final song against the lava monster, it wasn't my favorite moment. Just because I felt like it actually cut from the tension of the fight. If we're in a fight, and this is a bias, one of those subjectivities that just won't leave us alone. But I grew up like in wrestling since I was 5. So like, I don't know. When I think of a fight, I think of like the quietest state you'll ever be in the world, but it's like mentally the loudest. I'm not singing, you know, in that moment. I just feel like it's such a moment of tightness and focus. And then I also watched Ford versus Ferrari recently, and I love the line where he's like, you don't do this, you do this. And like that also happens where like, in tightening your focus, you expand and see the whole world, but you see it in a totally different way. And I don't know. I just feel like that is hard to pull off in really high tension scenes in an animated film during a song. But do you guys agree with me? Do you disagree? Do you think music cuts the tension or adds to it in animated films? Because I do think when there's a performance behind it, totally different animal. But when it's animated, I don't know. What do you think? We'll start with Rachel and then go to you, Zeb.
I think it depends on the movie. I think some movies absolutely distracting, and I think Moana 2 is a great example because none of those songs to me enhanced anything that was going on. So every time a song started, I was like, oh. And that's, so I think so much depends on the artistry of the music and how it's incorporated into the script. I have definitely watched animated movies where I found it really distracting and unnecessary, and ones where I loved it and it brought me in deeper. And I think the first Moana, I think the music was a character and a really important one. And I actually will disagree with you on that moment because I guess from my perspective, I don't see that moment as a fight. I feel like by the time she starts to sing, she's understood something, and it's like it's a bridge to this monster that's not a monster, because she understands that this is not a monster to be defeated, it's a woman to be connected with. So to me, that's one of the most moving scenes in the movie, because she's finding this courage and this recognition of the humanity in this monster and reaching out to her through song, which to me is, I think, really powerful. Subjective.
Yes. We continue to prove it. No, that's a great point. I didn't even watch it that way. Maybe if I watch it now that if I watch it a second time, it will certainly be thinking about that. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out. That's a really good point. I definitely saw it as a fight, but that is maybe how I'm programmed, and I went right along with that programming. Zeb, what do you think? Do you think that music ever detracts from tension in scenes and animated musical numbers? Do you think it can be used well? And do you have any examples of that, particularly from Moana?
I can't speak to Moana directly because I was really engrossed in the film the first time I saw it. But a recent example that I can bring up that I think the score actually detracts or kind of overplays its hand in the movie that's animated is actually the movie Soul. Because the whole point of the movie is jazz, and jazz is soul, which I believe 100%. But I think if you're trying to really tell the story, the jazz backing, which had like John Batiste in it, amazing score.
Yeah.
But I think it overplayed its hand. It was like way too much. It was trying to add soul to a movie that was about finding your soul. And look, that's a very, very minute criteria of a fantastic movie. I'm just using it as an example. But in general, I'm a huge score person, and I think it can make or break the film.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
to be clear, though, I'm not talking about score. I definitely agree with you. That's kind of a whole nother element. I mean, when characters are literally singing, does that ever detract from tension for you, or do you feel like it generally adds it, or is there what do you think about those scenes, tension, and how they affect the tension of a story at a climactic moment?
In that regard, then yes, I would have to agree. There are examples where it detracts from the tension. You brought up Prince of Egypt previously. I think that would be a good example. Like the two brothers singing about how they're going to decimate each other if one doesn't give in is like, all right, you know how many people are currently dying of the plague and you guys are singing about it? Like, yeah,
right.
it can kind of take you out.
Okay. Do you how did you feel it affected Moana as a film? Did you like the way the songs were used, and when?
I think it added to the tension and added to the overall quality of the film. I can see both arguments, but my subjective opinion is that it was fantastic and heightened the movie.
Nice. I agree with that on the whole, especially the sailing scenes, the scenes that were centered around the ocean. I guess it gets maybe difficult for me when there's another subject totally removed from sort of the world that the song feels like it's in. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I had a hard time with that during just the end scene. But Rachel brought up a good point, and now I need to rewatch it and think about it from a different angle.
Yeah.
What's that?
Watch that one scene again and tell me if you see it any different.
Right. I totally will. Because we're all students of the game up on this podcast. Yeah. So let's get into another question. Unless you guys have anything else you want to say about music and singing.
You know what song I love? I have one more. In Moana, when she's like on the raft and has been like destroyed by the storm, and she thinks that she's like it's all hope is lost, and then her grandmother shows up, the stingray, and then she sings that kind of reprise of the like I Am Moana song, and then it builds and builds, and then she dives into the ocean. Ugh, I feel like that song is like everything I wanted it to be.
Yes, that might have been my favorite song in the whole movie. I love that moment too. I am a huge fan of like sad moments and stuff like that. It's part of why I'm a horror fan. I love the dark tea time of the soul is like the part of the movie that I'm like eating it up, you know? Like, yes, it's the best part of the movie. Let's see some people crying. I want to cry. And I do. I cry at movies all the time. I don't know about y'all, but I definitely cry pretty easy, and my wife teases me relentlessly about it. So yeah, we were talking a little bit about how there's a lot of unique angles to this movie. Rachel, you brought some of those up in your debate. But I do feel like it's a relatively classic. I still feel like it is a classic hero's journey. I just think the hero is a different person, but like structurally, it's very much still the hero's journey. Like her mission is she wants to leave her hometown and go explore. And then that comes with a set of circumstances that makes that a very fantastical experience for her, rather than her just like going to Great Falls for college and then moving to Washington for a teaching job and ending up on a podcast with awesome creatives like you guys. But how do you think, what are some ways that you think new settings, new cultural themes, and other such story choices lend new angles to what we might say as like common narratives, at least in terms of structure? I think Moana structurally is pretty classic kids movie, you know, kind of like if that's your first hero's journey movie, that's the one you're going to remember. And when people explain the hero's journey to you later, you'll be like, oh yeah, like Moana. But there's a lot of things this thing does well. And Rachel, you talked about the female perspective. I'd love to hear about whatever you think put a new twist on the hero's journey the way they did Moana.
So this one's a little tricky, and obviously outside of the debate setting. So like Moana's script was written by a man, and it was directed by a man. So in that way, it is a male perspective imagining a female perspective. And so very much I agree. It is like it is the traditional structure of a male's hero's journey, but transplanting a woman in. But I actually felt, and maybe this was part of the depth of time they spent, you know, doing cultural research and incorporating like real elements of this culture and speaking with these people, that there felt to me to be a shift a bit in that traditional hero's journey that allowed for a little more space that felt more female to me. And I appreciated those elements. I mean, like the moment we talked about in terms of like, is this a fight or is this not? Like these little subtle things, moments of connection, moments of despair, that moments of space and quiet, you know, trusting intuition and stuff like that. That I think it kind of it straddles both. But like, you know, it'd been, and obviously we'll never know, but like it would have been interesting, like if this script had been written and directed by a woman, what would have been different? Like, how would it have been differently structured and envisioned? Because I think innately the hero's journey is very male. And I just think women, like we can fit into the hero's journey. And this is my subjective opinion. I'm not speaking for all women. My feeling though, when I watch the hero's journey is I never quite see myself in it. It doesn't feel like the way I see the world or the way I encounter and deal with obstacles and ultimately the journey of life. And so I think that's why I'm always so excited when I see a film that feels more female and feels more like a female perspective, because I start to see myself reflected in the journey. And I think this one, it pulled at those strings, even though it didn't cross over fully. And I think there's room for both and need for both. But I think, you know, it has been so dominated by the hero's journey and the male perspective for so long that it's like to see a true female perspective in a story like this is rare. And hopefully will happen more, because I would be really interested to see those stories, and like a story like this that is so female centric actually helmed by women creatively behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, and obviously Emergence Films is taking a very active part in all of that. Fantastic points. No notes. I definitely agree. Obviously, I'm fascinated to hear if you have some examples, but do you have any concrete examples, or, you know, like relatable examples for what it means to journey along the plot diagram in a more feminine way than the way that when males encounter obstacles, they handle them. What are more feminine examples, and do you have any we could go check out? If it's okay if you don't, I'm dropping this on you completely unexpectedly.
No, that's okay. I think in my experience, it has a lot to do with how do I even explain this? It's not even necessarily that there's less, like it's less of an outward focus of like, I'm going to go kill the deer and conquer the thing and steal the treasure and get the girl. And it's more like an internal experiencing of moments. So like what I will see consistently in female directed films and written films that I love is like sitting in moments longer, taking time to tactilely experience your surroundings and feel the visceralness of being in the moment you're in, the emotions that you're in, not smashing through to the next thing. Just, the pacing tends to be a little more slower, a little more contemplative. Interactions tend to be much more sort of intuition based, internal out talking conversation, changes that are subtle but impactful, rather than like I've slayed the monster. It's like I've solved something within myself, or I've used my intuition or my gut feeling or connections with other people to create something different in this space. I'm trying to think of some good examples. A movie I love is A Portrait of a Lady on Fire, a French film, incredible, beautiful. A newer film that I thought was just brilliant recently was My Old Ass with Aubrey Plaza, which is female written and directed. And again, I think just kind of a perfect movie in terms of like a coming of age, and also just this interesting dichotomy of being able to talk to a future version of yourself, which I obviously love stuff like that. And I will say, just for a personal plug, my film Ingress is very much this way. And I think I've seen the polarity in how it's received based on whether people like that or not. And I've had some men in particular say to me, you don't understand pacing, or like, this is long. Like if you understood anything, you need to cut it, you need to make it shorter, more quick. But like, that was such a deliberate choice on my part because I didn't want to rush through moments. And so it is a little bit longer. And some people think that's slow. For me, it doesn't feel slow. And for the people who seem to really love this movie, they get it. And they will specifically call out that pacing and that, being able to sit in these moments. So I don't know, it's hard to explain because it's not like super outward, but I think that's the whole point. It's just a different energy entirely.
No, that totally makes sense. The one that came to mind when I was listening to you explain that is The Babadook. Like, one of my favorite horror films of all time, and I believe I know it's a woman directed it. I think she was the sole writer as well. And that movie's a masterclass in that. Like, every moment is something you sit with. They don't kill the Babadook at the end of that movie. It lives in their basement and they feed it worms. And she like goes down and like takes his shit. And then she goes back upstairs and the son's like, how was it today? And she's like, good. After like a totally terrifying scene. It was fucking awesome. So, and that's like, that does feel like a very like feminine perspective on an existential threat. It's like, yes, I have to deal with it. And then I have to put my face back on and I have to go protect my kid from it. Because that's her duty as a mother. It's a beautiful movie. But anyway, Zeb, do you want to weigh in on this question? Do you need me to repeat it?
No, I don't need you to repeat it. I just, I'm hesitant to to make any statements that are I will say from I'll speak for Travis from the philosophy perspective.
Okay, this is officially Zebediah Booth speaking on behalf of Travis. These are Travis's words as well.
These are Travis's unfiltered thoughts. Yeah, what he would say is what Rachel is describing is a very ontological dilemma. It's like, where do I fit in things, and like what do I feel about being? And like, I think with Moana, you could have had a hero's arc, hero's journey of just her trying to, get over like the cultural norms of being, or the hierarchy of being the chief's daughter. Like just that alone is her, I'm gonna stop there because I don't have any frame of reference.
Or even just honestly, like that's such a great way to put it, because it's like for me, I would have been thrilled if Moana goes out on the boat and we're just with her and the ocean and her feelings and her fears, and we don't need monsters. We don't need her to go into the realm of monsters. We don't need her to kill anything. Like that to me would have been just as powerful all the way to that end with to Fiti. There's another movie that just sprung to mind for me, which I talk about this with my husband all the time, which is like the original Avatar movie. The first part of it, before the fucking war guys come and destroy everything, it becomes a big battle, I think it's just like the most beautiful world. And for me, I would love to just be in that world. I just want to be in this world where I get to see this matriarchy and people in tune with nature and finding peaceful connection with each other and with the earth. And like, to me, that was like the movie. And then it was just devastating to me to watch this war thing happen and just destroy it all. And I feel like so many big movies, this is what they do. They set up this beautiful world and then they come in and absolutely destroy it with a big battle. That to me is maybe a great example of the difference for me in terms of like the energy and the engagement I like to have with stories. I don't need to see everything blow up and get destroyed and resolved. Like I'd rather just stay in the space and learn from it for what it is.
I think that's a great point. I think generally I kind of prefer that too. It's why I'm always hating on action movies or movies with too much action. I'm definitely that person. Like I just finished Stranger Things, and that's like the biggest detracting element for it for me. Is it's way less like it pertains to be character. We don't need to talk about it. I got a review about it coming out next week. You can watch Clay's Horror Corner if you want to do that. It's all part of the Fermented Fiction IP. Instead, let's move on to my final question. But actually, you've already kind of answered it. But if you want to get specifically to one aspect of it, I guess. Like, so in your debate, you spoke of this being a very feminine story. Now you've just spoken to that more on that last question. But you also mentioned it felt like the male gaze was somewhat removed from this story. So what to you, how does that happen? How do you remove not only how do you tell a feminine story, but then also remove the gaze, if that is something that can be done?
I feel like I've been all over the map with talking about this movie with like, is it the male gaze? Is it the female gaze? I don't know. I think there are a lot of wonderful men who have a very feminine energy or who connect to female energy. And I feel like this movie, I felt like a collaboration. It felt like a perspective that was shared. And I think that's what helped. And I don't know what went down behind the scenes, but you know, Lin-Manuel comes from a whole different world in terms of Broadway and musical theater and art in a different way. And then the people they were working with on the, you know, the cultural side. And I don't know, it felt like that sort of very like myopic male gaze focus, which we see in like Avatar is a great example, right? It's like, it felt like it was just softened a bit. And it felt like it was a movie that left space for more perspectives to find themselves in it. And I, having not been part of the making of, I don't know how they accomplished that with a male-led team, but they did. And at least to me, that's how it felt to me.
Nice. Well, good. Thank you for answering all my questions about that. Like Zeb, not a lot to add on that topic. That's very much because you fit that. You are particularly expert at that aspect of the creative world. So thanks again for lending that knowledge to us. Yeah, this has been a really fun discussion of Moana 1 and Moana 2. I think the last kind of thing we need to get to while we're still on this movie is we like to rate these things. Now, you may have never been to an episode of Fermented Fiction, so you might think we're about to go on a 1 through 10 situation. You would be incorrect. What we are going to do is we're going to tell you how many beers you need to enjoy Moana 1 and 2 to the fullest extent. Now, it doesn't have to be beers. It can be whatever you prefer to intoxicate yourself. But how much do you need? What do you need to enjoy Moana 1 and 2 to the fullest extent? We'll start with you, Zeb.
All right. So for Moana 1, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go get an electrolyte packet, particularly one with a lot of salt. You're going to pour that in some water, and you're going to sip that for like the first half of the movie, just to be in solidarity with what it would be like to taste the salty ocean spray.
All right.
then you're going to have just one beer, maybe just one, or one drink of your choice for the rest of the movie, just to like ride it out. For Moana 2, you're going to really rely on those electrolyte packets to help you out, because then you're going to have like at least 3 or 4 more beers to get through the second movie.
That's a perfect rating. I was very much on the same kind of track. I was thinking, get whatever your favorite thing to drink is when you go, or if you like, maybe you're like me and you like to go to live theater, in which case something that makes me feel like I'm at the live theater from watching something is like really bland black coffee and any beer, so whatever beer I have lying around. So I will do those because that's what I usually drink when I go to a play. And then, yeah, Moana 2, I would do tequila. It just fits the most with the tropical vibes for me. So I'd get a pretty tasty tequila and then go ahead and slam like 2 of those puppies, and then crack another one of your beers. You might need 2 of those or 3 of those to get through movie 2. So you don't realize that all the songs are just kind of singing about what's happening in the plot at the time, rather than moving the plot forward at all. Rachel, what about you?
All right. I'll build on what you all said. I would say for Moana 1, a lovely tiki drink that you can just savor while you watch that movie and enjoy it. For movie 2, maybe to kick it up a notch, let's make it a drinking game. And you have to take a shot every time they basically copycat a plot point from the first movie. Then you get pretty wasted.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So that's playing it on hard mode. But you can certainly watch Moana 2 on hard mode if you like, on survival mode. Do it Rachel's way. Thank you, Rachel, for filling the role that Jeremy usually provides in this portion of the show. And just doing it off the cuff. We appreciate that. We also appreciate you as a guest. We're so thankful you came on tonight. Thank you so much again for lending your expertise, your insight, your perspective to our little show. I'm sure people after listening to this will want to go watch your movies, and they very much should, because I really enjoyed Inheritance and Ingress. So I highly recommend. I got to see Inheritance in the theater and Ingress in streaming, but they're both great. Rachel is in Inheritance and has written, directed. So make sure that you go check those out. Rachel, where can people do that? Where would you like them to find you? Can they interact with you anywhere? Is there any place for emergence for people you just finished submissions, it sounds like, but how can people get involved in that if they want to? Go.
Definitely. So for me personally, I'm on the socials. Instagram is mainly the one I use, at Rachel Noll-James with dots for some reason. So that's me on Instagram. I have a website, rachelnolljames.com. The films can both be streamed on Tubi and Amazon Prime at the moment, in the US and Canada, soon to be UK and Ireland as well. And Emergence Films, a great way to stay up to date with what we're doing is just to hop on our website, which is emergencefilms.us, and join our mailing list. We do not spam with newsletters. We do about 1 a quarter, but we'll just kind of announce, any upcoming screenings, any upcoming submissions, kind of what's going on with the program. And Sienna and I are both very available. We love to mentor. We love to be of help. So if you have questions about film or looking for support, you can always reach out and just message us through the website, and we will respond.
Yes, and I can attest to both Sienna and Rachel's generosity with their time and wisdom. Sienna has already helped me on multiple things with my new film producer job. She's always willing to answer questions. Rachel has always been the same way, and she hosts a meetup on Bainbridge for filmmakers in the area. So if you happen to be one of those, first Wednesday of the month, every month, a lot of us Bainbridge area filmmakers come out and show up. I haven't done it recently because I've been doing the show instead. But it's an awesome group of people. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great place to like meet other filmmakers and get resources and everything like that. So also something to think about. Happen to be a local filmmaker. Yeah. Hell of a show, everybody. Thanks for talking about Moana with us. Rachel, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate you. Zeb, thanks for pitch hitting, brother. Always fun to hang out and chat with you. This is the first time we've gotten to do an episode together because you're usually pinch hitting for my ass. So it was really fun to be on the air with you, brother.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Thank you. This was a lot of fun. Rachel, it was a pleasure to meet you as well. Incredibly jealous that you get to spend a lot of time on Bainbridge. What a fun little island. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Guys.
and do be sure to go follow Meathead Media. They're releasing weekly content, great movie reviews, very consistent. And Zeb is a very engaged moderator of that forum. He will definitely talk to you if you comment. So you should do that. We'll do the same at Fermented Fiction. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and do all that other shit. Yell it at your friends. Yell it at your enemies if you don't like it. It's a great place to send your enemies as well. They can spam us in the comments, and then we'll ignore them just like you do. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. It's been another episode of Fermented Fiction. We'll see you next time. Next week, we are here with Peter Roche, author of What the Dead Can Do. One of our friends from Texas, connection with Johnny Compton. Episode 1 of this season, if you want to check that out. All right.